What starts as a humiliating joke in front of the entire school staff ends up uncovering something no one expected. But who really saw her? Who truly believed in her? Let us know in the comments section below. Britney Hemsworth didn't look like trouble. That's what Principal Carmody thought the first day he saw her. Small frame, head down, too quiet. He filed her away with the other non-issues, the invisible kids who never got referrals, who sat in the back, who didn't matter unless they disrupted something. He never imagined he'd know her name, much less regret the day he spoke it out loud. It was during an after-school planning meeting in the auditorium, teachers scattered among folding chairs, discussing the upcoming spring showcase. The staff buzzed about logistics, schedules, the usual chaos. Principal Carmody stood at the center like he always did, one hand in his pocket, the other gripping his aluminum coffee tumbler like it held more power than caffeine. "We need variety this year," said Mrs. Dunlap from the drama department, pushing her thick glasses up her nose. "The usual dance routines and lip syncs won't cut it." Carmody smirked, scanning the auditorium like a late-night comic surveying a sleepy crowd. "What do we got, fire eaters? Jugglers? Interpretive dance?" Snickers rippled through the group. Then Mr. Lennox Freeman, the music teacher, cleared his throat. "I've got a few vocalists lined up, and, well, there's a student I've been working with privately on piano. I think she's ready. Her name's Britney Hemsworth." Carmody paused. The name didn't ring a bell. "Britney who?" "8th grade. Quiet kid. Real talent." The principal's eyebrow lifted. Then, without warning, he laughed. Not a deep, hearty laugh. No, this one was dry, mocking. "Let me get this straight," he said, letting his voice carry. "You want a girl who's never performed, never auditioned, who probably picked up piano 2 months ago to play for the showcase?" Freeman didn't flinch. "She's good." Carmody took a beat. Then he looked toward the far end of the auditorium, where a dusty, unused upright piano stood like a forgotten relic. "Hey," he said, turning toward a student assistant passing out flyers, "go grab Britney Hemsworth. Tell her the principal wants to hear her play." It was meant as a joke, a way to mock Freeman's idealism in front of the staff. A girl playing piano cold? It would be awkward at best, hilarious at worst. Either way, Carmody thought, it would shut down the conversation and give everyone a little entertainment. When Britney arrived 5 minutes later, led in by a confused student aide, she looked like she wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. Her fingers clutched the straps of her backpack, knuckles white, eyes flicking between teachers she barely recognized. Principal Carmody greeted her with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Hemsworth," he said, his voice smooth, "we hear you play piano. Let's see what you've got." The room fell silent. Teachers stopped mid-whisper. Mr. Freeman opened his mouth to object, but Britney was already moving toward the piano, slow, like walking through fog. She didn't speak, didn't nod, just walked, sat down, placed her hands on the keys. And then she played. The first note was shaky, the second steadier. By the third, the auditorium had changed. The air felt different, charged, like static before a storm. The old upright piano had never sounded like this before. What she played wasn't classical, not a pop song either. It was hers, raw and alive, stitched with something ancient and aching. Even Carmody, who'd planned to chuckle into his coffee the moment she stumbled, froze. Something in his chest tightened, and he hated it, hated that he felt anything at all. She ended with a chord that hung in the air like a question. For a second, no one moved. Then applause started, scattered, then swelling. Mr. Freeman rose to his feet, clapping so hard his palms turned red. Mrs. Dunlap stared, mouth slightly open. One of the gym coaches let out a low whistle. Carmody smiled, tight and hollow. "Well," he said, "that was unexpected." Britney stood. Her hands shook. She didn't smile, just looked at Principal Carmody with a gaze he didn't expect, a quiet fire behind it. Then, without a word, she walked off the stage and out the side door. That was the first moment anyone at Lincoln Grove Middle really saw Britney Hemsworth. Later that night, Carmody would try to downplay what happened. He'd say she was lucky, that it was cute, how she surprised everyone. But deep down, something unsettled him. That performance didn't just impress, it embarrassed him, made him look like a fool for assuming. And he didn't like that one bit. By morning, clips of the performance were already circulating on social media. A teacher had recorded it on their phone, just for memories, and posted it in a private group chat. But it leaked, first through the PTA's Facebook group, then to local news outlets. By third period, Britney's name was being whispered in every hallway. Some called her a prodigy. Others said she got lucky. But for Britney, the performance wasn't about any of that. It was about her mom. It was the first time she'd played since the funeral. And now, the world wouldn't let her go back to being invisible. Not after that. Britney sat on the cold tile floor of the girls' restroom, knees pulled tight to her chest, trying to slow her breathing. The stall door was locked, her backpack wedged in front of it like a makeshift barricade. Her earbuds were in, but no music played. She just needed the illusion of silence, something to muffle the way her name had started flying through the school like confetti. By lunch, it wasn't just students whispering about her. Teachers were looking at her differently too, some with curiosity, others with cautious interest. As if she'd suddenly grown extra limbs. No one knew what to do with her now. Especially not her. When she'd sat down at that piano the day before, she hadn't been trying to prove anything. She wasn't aiming to impress. It was just survival, a way to stop shaking. Her hands knew what to do when her voice couldn't. It was instinct, memory, and grief all braided into sound. But now people were acting like she'd asked for the attention, like she'd signed up for the stage. She hadn't. Someone knocked on the stall door. "Britney?" "Janelle." Britney didn't answer. "Girl, come on. It's me." After a long pause, Britney slowly reached out and slid the lock open. Janelle stepped inside and dropped her bag with a thud. She didn't say anything at first, just sat cross-legged across from Britney like they were at a sleepover. Her braids were tied up in a loose bun, and her oversized hoodie had ink smudges all down one sleeve. "You've got half the 8th grade mad confused," Janelle said finally. Britney blinked. "What? People thought you were just some shy girl who sat in the corner reading books. Now they're saying you're some kind of secret Mozart." Britney groaned and let her head fall back against the stall wall. "I didn't mean for that to happen." Janelle shrugged. "Doesn't matter. It happened. And you know what? It was kinda epic." Britney sighed. "It was a joke." "Yeah, but you flipped it." "I didn't flip anything. He set me up to look stupid." "And you didn't." That part still hadn't sunk in. Britney hadn't processed the applause, the look on Mr. Freeman's face, or the fact that Sutton Reeves, literal piano prince of Lincoln Grove, had frozen when he saw the clip in homeroom that morning. All she could remember was Carmody's smirk right before she touched the keys. She couldn't stop thinking about it. "I just wanted to be invisible again," Britney said softly. "Too late for that now." Janelle pulled out a crumpled flyer from her bag. "You see this?" Britney took it. "Spring Showcase Final Lineup" was written in bold across the top. There, third name down under the featured performers list. Britney Hemsworth. Piano solo. Her stomach flipped. "I didn't agree to this. Mr. Freeman submitted your name. Says you earned it." Britney closed her eyes. "I don't want it." Janelle tilted her head. "Are you sure?" Britney opened her mouth to say yes, that she was sure. That she didn't want the attention, the pressure, the stares. But then she remembered her mom. Late nights at the church, lights off except for one lamp by the piano, her mother's fingers dancing over the keys, soft humming drifting through the air like lullabies. Britney would sit underneath the bench, eyes closed, feeling the music vibrate through the floorboards into her bones. Her mom used to say, "Baby, when the world won't hear your voice, let it hear your hands." Britney's hands hadn't spoken in months, until yesterday. She folded the flyer in half and tucked it into her hoodie pocket. Outside the stall, the bell rang. Fourth period. Janelle stood, brushing lint from her leggings. "So, you gonna do it?" Britney stared at the graffiti carved into the back of the stall door. A heart with 2 names scratched inside, a peace sign. Someone had etched the word "loud" in thick, angry lines. Maybe it was time she stopped whispering. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe." Janelle gave her a look that said, "You know exactly what you're gonna do," but didn't press. They left the restroom together, but when they turned the corner toward the main hallway, Britney froze. Sutton Reeves stood by his locker, surrounded by his usual crew, buttoned-down shirts, perfect haircuts, voices like they owned the halls. He caught sight of her and raised an eyebrow. "Look who's a celebrity now," he said, loud enough for people nearby to turn. Britney kept walking, head down. Sutton didn't. He stepped into her path. "I saw the video," he said. "Cute." Janelle stepped up beside Britney, arms crossed. "You jealous?" Sutton smirked. "Of what? Playing on that raggedy piano like she's in a church basement?" Britney felt her fists clench. Sutton leaned in. "You think one fluke performance makes you something special. This showcase isn't a pity concert. You're not built for it." Britney's voice, when it came, surprised even her. "Then you shouldn't be scared." Sutton blinked. "Enough." "You are," Britney said. "You just didn't expect someone like me to make you nervous." The hallway quieted. His friends exchanged looks. Janelle's eyes widened, then narrowed in satisfaction. Sutton's face flushed. "Whatever," he muttered, brushing past. The crowd dispersed. Janelle looked over at Britney, impressed. "Girl, who are you today?" Britney didn't know. But maybe that was okay. She walked to class with her heart pounding, adrenaline still buzzing in her fingertips. When the final bell rang that day, she found Mr. Freeman standing outside the music room, tuning a guitar. He looked up and smiled. "Britney." She hesitated. "You put me on the list," she said quietly. "I did. I didn't say yes." "I know." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Mr. Freeman leaned the guitar against the wall and nodded toward the piano. "It's open." Britney walked in. She didn't sit. Not yet. She placed her fingers gently on the edge of the keys, like greeting an old friend after a long time apart. Mr. Freeman waited. Finally, she sat down and began to play. The auditorium lights were off, but Britney could still feel the room watching her. Even in the dark, it carried a weight. Rows of chairs like silent judges, the faint scent of varnished wood and old carpet, and that heavy stage curtain that felt like it could swallow her whole. Her fingers hovered over the piano keys during rehearsal, and though no one sat in the audience today except Mr. Freeman, her hands trembled like the whole world was watching. "You're rushing," Mr. Freeman said gently from the side. He didn't scold. He never did. Britney nodded, ashamed. Her tempo had slipped again. It wasn't because she didn't know the music. It was because the pressure was starting to build, and the showcase was only 3 days away. Freeman walked over, kneeling beside the bench so he was eye level with her. "Take a breath. Feel it. Not just the notes, but the story underneath." She looked at him, unsure. "What story?" "You tell me. It's your piece." Britney glanced down at the keys. She'd chosen a composition she'd written herself. No lyrics, just emotion. It wasn't neat or structured like Sutton's competition pieces. It was messy, like grief, like letting go. And she wasn't sure if anyone else would even understand it. She pressed a hand over her heart. "It's about my mom," she whispered. Mr. Freeman nodded. "Then play it for her. Not them." That night, Britney stayed up late in her room, the glow of her keyboard's plastic keys bathing her in soft light. Her headphones let her play without waking Aunt Marlene down the hall. The notes flowed easier here where no one could see her. But she knew hiding wouldn't work forever. At school the next day, things started to shift. Sutton wasn't just annoyed anymore. He was angry. Flyers for the showcase had gone up, and Britney's name was listed right next to his. Same font, same size, equal billing. That alone was enough to make his jaw clench every time they crossed paths. She noticed the little things. The sideways glances from his friends, the smirks, the laughter that stopped when she walked past, the time someone slid a folded note into her locker that read, "Can't wait to see you fail." She didn't tell Janelle. She didn't even tell Mr. Freeman. She tried to focus on the music, but it got harder when the school's morning announcements came on over the loudspeaker and a short piano clip was played after her name was read. It wasn't the full piece, just a few seconds of her warm-up, recorded during rehearsal. She hadn't even known someone was filming. She sat frozen in homeroom while other students whispered. A few clapped. One girl even turned around and said, "You go, Britney." But the moment she stepped into the hallway afterward, it all snapped. Sutton stood waiting near her locker. His face was blank, but his eyes weren't. "Guess you're the new star now," he said. Britney said nothing. Crazy how the school just lets anyone perform these days. No audition, no history, just one fluke performance and a flood of sympathy. Britney looked up at him. "Is that what you think it is?" "I think it's obvious." She nodded slowly. "Good. Then I'll prove you wrong." Sutton leaned in, lowering his voice. "You think playing a song about your dead mom is going to make people forget how average you are?" The words hit her like a slap. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. But she felt it. Every part of her burned. "Get out of my face," she said quietly. Students were beginning to gather. Mr. Freeman, passing by, noticed. He called out, "Everything okay over here?" Britney didn't answer. She turned, walked away. But something inside her had cracked. At lunch, she sat in silence next to Janelle, barely touching her food. Janelle watched her for a while before speaking. "What did he say?" Britney didn't answer at first. Then finally, "He said I'm average." Janelle scoffed. "And you believed him?" Britney looked down at her tray. "It's not about believing. It's about hearing it, over and over." Janelle leaned in. "You're not average. You're not even in the same galaxy as average." Britney didn't smile. That night, she didn't practice. She just lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, trying not to cry. The next morning, something unexpected happened. As she walked into the music room for her final rehearsal, she noticed the piano was gone. Not gone as in moved, gone as in broken. The top had been scratched up with something sharp, keys jammed and cracked. Someone had poured liquid into the inside, warping the strings. It was ruined. She stood frozen at the doorway, Mr. Freeman beside her, staring in shock. He walked forward first, inspecting the damage. "Who did this?" he asked softly, though it was obvious the question wasn't for her. Britney's chest caved in. She already knew. A janitor was called, then the vice principal. The rumors spread fast. By the end of third period, Sutton was called into the office. By the end of fourth, Britney was... They made her sit across from Principal Carmody. He wore the same smirk he'd had the day he first made her play, but this time, it wasn't playful. "We're investigating," he said, "but there's no proof." "I didn't do anything," Britney said. "I'm not saying you did." He leaned back, folding his hands. "But this kind of drama, It brings unnecessary distraction to the school and to the showcase. Her throat tightened. "What are you saying?" He paused. "I'm saying maybe it's best if we pull your performance." She couldn't breathe. Mr. Freeman stepped in then, having waited just outside the door. "That's not your call," he said firmly. "She's already on the roster. This isn't up for debate." Carmody's jaw ticked. Britney stood. "Am I suspended?" "No," he said. "Just consider stepping back. For the good of the school." Britney turned to Mr. Freeman. "Can we still rehearse?" His voice was gentle but firm. "We'll find a new piano." They walked out together. Britney didn't cry until she got home. Not loud sobs. Just silent tears as she sat at her keyboard, the only thing still safe, the only place left untouched. She placed her hands on the plastic keys. Her fingers hesitated. Then they moved, and the story inside her came pouring out, fiercer than ever. It didn't matter if the world tried to erase her. She was done hiding. The curtains were still drawn when Britney stepped onto the stage. Her heart pounded against her ribcage like it was trying to escape. From behind the red velvet she could hear the hum of a packed auditorium. Chatter, footsteps, someone unwrapping candy too loudly, the creak of old chairs shifting with restless excitement. The spring showcase had officially begun, and she was the final act. Not an opener, not filler, the closer. She stood behind the curtain, gripping the smooth wooden edge of the piano bench they'd rolled out just minutes ago. A new piano, donated by the community overnight after the incident. Students, parents, a few anonymous sponsors, all pulled together when they heard about what happened. The local news even did a segment. They called it "The Girl Who Played Through the Pain." Mr. Freeman stood off stage, arms crossed, giving her a small nod. His eyes said everything. "You got this." But Britney didn't feel like she had anything. Not courage, not certainty. Just 100 swirling thoughts and a melody clawing at her insides. Then the MC's voice echoed through the loudspeaker. "And now, to close tonight's show, please welcome Britney Hemsworth." The curtain parted. Bright lights flooded her eyes. For a second all she could see were shadows. Outlines of people in the front row, flashes of cell phone screens ready to record. Then she stepped forward, took her seat at the piano, and placed her hands on the keys. No introduction, no speech. She played. The first note came out hesitant, almost shy, but it hung in the air with weight, like it had been waiting to be heard. Then the next note followed, and the next, and the dam broke. Her fingers didn't just play. They spoke. They shouted. They wept. The song she'd composed alone in her room, the one that had only lived inside her until now, unfurled like a story. She wove grief and love and memory into every measure. Her mother's humming on Sunday mornings, the sound of rain against the church roof while her mom played just to feel something, the way silence had filled their home after she was gone. All of it poured out, and something shifted in the room. The chatter stopped, the fidgeting stilled, phones lowered. For those few minutes, the entire auditorium became a living thing, breathing with her. Even Sutton, seated stiffly in the front row, couldn't move, his expression unreadable. But he watched. He had to. When Britney reached the final phrase, she let it linger. A soft diminuendo. Her fingers rested gently on the keys as the last chord faded into silence. And then the applause began. Slow at first, polite, hesitant. Then it swelled, like waves. People stood, rows upon rows, rising to their feet. The sound crashed into her like a tidal force, washing over the stage. Mr. Freeman clapped with both hands raised, his eyes wet. Janelle whistled so loud from the second row people turned to look. Britney stood, hands at her sides, unsure what to do. She gave a small bow. Then she saw Principal Carmody standing near the exit. He wasn't clapping. He looked like a man watching something slip out of his control. She held his gaze for just a second. Then she turned and walked off stage. Backstage it was chaos. Performers high-fiving, teachers handing out water bottles, kids posing for photos, some still in costume. Mr. Freeman pushed through the crowd to reach her. "You did it," he said. Britney smiled, dazed. "I don't remember half of it." "That's how you know it was real." A student runner appeared with a clipboard. Mr. Freeman, Principal Carmody wants to see Britney in his office." Mr. Freeman's jaw tightened. "Now?" The kid nodded, said, "It's urgent." Britney didn't flinch. "I'll go." Mr. Freeman hesitated. "Want me to come?" "No," she said. "I've got it." The hallways were quiet now, emptied for the showcase. She walked slowly toward the admin wing, her footsteps echoing on the tile. When she entered the office, Carmody was already seated behind his desk, arms folded. He didn't stand. "Take a seat," he said. He glanced up. "You made quite an impression tonight." Britney said nothing. He studied her face. "You know, I didn't expect this to go where it did. You surprised everyone." "I didn't do it to surprise anyone." "No, but now people are watching. The school board, the media. That brings attention we didn't ask for." Britney's throat tightened, but she stood still. "I'd like you to consider transferring your performance credit to a school partnership with the district's gifted program," he continued. "We could frame it as a gesture of unity, less about you, more about opportunity." It took her a second to realize what he was saying. He wanted her to downplay it, to step back again, quietly, without a fuss. She straightened her spine. "No." His eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "I said no," Britney repeated. "This was mine. I'm not giving it away so you can manage the story." Carmody leaned back. "That's a bold attitude, Miss Hemsworth." "Bold's all I've got left." There was a silence between them, long and tight. Then she turned and walked out. She didn't look back. By Monday, her story had spread beyond the town. Local news became regional coverage. A community arts nonprofit offered her a summer scholarship. A music school in Atlanta called Mr. Freeman about an early enrollment recommendation. Her inbox filled with messages, some from strangers, some from students, a few from teachers she'd never even spoken to. But the one that meant the most came handwritten. Tucked into her locker Tuesday morning. It was a card, on the front a sketch of a piano bench and the words, "Play on." Inside, in careful, looping script, "You're the reason I want to learn again. Thank you. Maya, grade 6. Britney smiled, pressing the card to her chest. She didn't know what would come next. There would be more performances, more critics, more people like Sutton, more people like Carmody. But now she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't playing for them. She was playing for the ones who listened. She was playing for her mom. And she was just getting started.